Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I took this 80s style dresser mirror and modified it into a beautiful entryway piece. If you follow my channel, you may remember I recently refinished my friend's bedroom set. She didn't want to keep this mirror above the dresser, so I suggested to transform it into an entryway piece. She loved the idea, so here we go. As I do with all of my projects, I clean the mirror from top to bottom with soap and water. With this completed, it was time to evaluate what needed to be changed. A few things that I wanted to get rid of were the acorn accents, this rail at the bottom, and finally, the number of mirrors. I worked on this piece simultaneously with the bedroom set. So I used some wood filler to fill in the acorns. I know in the previous video, I mentioned I would use Bondo for future projects, but since I worked on this at the same time, I just used what I had in hand. The next thing I did was remove this rail. It was actually quite simple since it was just screwed on at the bottom. With the wood filler dry, it was time to sand down the entire piece with an 80 grit sandpaper, and then I cleaned it off from all the dust residue. One thing I needed to figure out was how I was going to create a top for this piece. As you can see here, it is a solid wood frame, and then it's filled in with an unfinished particle board type material. Since this will be the top part of the piece, I'm just assuming it's going to be highly used. I can just imagine it being like a landing area. You know, like where you put your keys, your purse, your wallet, maybe even some small grocery bags when you're carrying them in. And with the current finish it had, it was just not going to do. So I had to do something about this. At first, I thought of adding a veneer. However, I didn't think the veneer was going to be sturdy enough. So instead, I added a thin piece of plywood that I had on hand from a previous project. It was about 1/8 of an inch thick to be exact. I measured the area that needed to be covered, and unfortunately the piece I had was not long enough, so I just went ahead and joined 2 pieces to make one long one. To adhere both pieces, I first cleaned it off from any dust and grease that it could have at the top. I used then a combination of wood glue and nails to make sure that it was super solid on top. Now, since I was cutting this without a guide, I knew I wasn't going to be perfectly straight. So just a quick tip, if you have this issue, just simply make the cut a little bit longer, and then once you have it on, you trim off the excess. Once the plywood was secured in place, I needed to fill in the gaps to make sure the union looks seamless. Using some plastic wood, I filled in the union between both plywoods. Then I filled in any of the side gaps that united both the frame and the plywood, and I filled in any of the nail holes. Once that was dried, I smoothed it out with the 220 grit sandpaper. With these modifications completed, it was time to start prepping for paint. I used some blue painter's tape to cover the union of the mirror with the wood part. In my opinion, it is very important when you're painting near a mirror to be very careful because it can be tricky since mirrors just reflect everything. So blue tape it was. To start off, I applied a layer of all-purpose primer to everything. Then I slightly sanded it down with a 220 grit sandpaper and removed any dust residue before applying a layer of paint. The paint color my friend wanted was an olive black. I had some leftover paint from her bedroom set, and I felt confident I could create a similar look by adding some black into it. So I mixed 1/4 part of Behr Limousine leather to 3/4 parts of vine leaf paint. I didn't get the exact color, but it came out pretty close. And with her approval, I was ready to paint. I applied 3 layers of paint, lightly sanding and cleaning in between each layer in order to get that rich olive black color I was looking for. To seal the piece, I applied 2 layers of Varathane polyurethane triple thick in a matte finish. Okay, remember at the beginning I mentioned I wanted to reduce the number of mirrors? In order to do so, I purchased some peel and stick wallpaper off of Amazon. My vision was to cover up the lateral mirrors and leave the big middle mirror as it was. So first thing, I measured each section. Then I cut the wallpaper down to size. And using a precision utility knife, I carefully removed the blue tape from the mirrors. Then I cleaned the mirror from any dust it could possibly have and stuck on the wallpaper. I wanted to add some supporting legs to this piece so that it looked intentional as an entryway piece and not necessarily as an afterthought. So I measured exactly where I wanted them to be. Then I measured how deep the holes needed to be, and I marked the drill bit with a little bit of blue tape. Then I drilled the hole into the bottom of the mirror. Using some wood glue, I placed the legs, I hammered them in just to make sure that they fit in quite well, and then I removed any excess glue. Last little bit. I felt like this piece needed a little bit of pizzazz, something that made it unique. So why not add some lights? I bought these battery-operated lights off of Amazon. They were simple to install since they had self-adhesive tape on them. And for the battery pack, I simply added some command strips and then hid it at the very top of this mirror. Let's light it up. And after a couple of days of hard work, we took this 80s dresser mirror and transformed it into a beautiful, unique, and useful entryway piece. The top landing area came out looking amazing. The acorn piece was removed, and the wallpaper did just the trick to simplify this piece. I love how the lights give it another layer, and it just all came together beautifully. I hope that this transformation inspires you to repurpose and rethink the pieces of furniture you already own. I know having these one-of-a-kind pieces is always a great way to give your house a personal twist. Now, if you haven't seen what I did to my friend's bedroom set, I'll make sure to add a link here in the video. As usual, I'll share the list of materials I used for this project in the description below. Now, finally, before you go, if you like this video and you want to keep seeing some more of these transformations, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, here at Angie's Crafts Furniture Renovation. Bye, guys.